U.S. Census, out of the 73.7 million children in the United States, 3 million live with two unmarried parents. That's about 4%. So that doesn't mean that those 4% only have divorced parents. That means that they're living part-time with both of them instead of just with a single mom or just with their dad. So I fall into that 4%. My parents divorced when I was 3 years old, and I never really knew why they divorced. And that's not because I never asked. It's because whenever I asked, they always gave me vague answers, or it was just not exactly clear. So what I've come to think over the years is that my dad just worked so much that my mom didn't really think that we were a family anymore. So when I tell people that my parents divorced when I was 3, they always give me the response of, "Oh, you poor thing, you were so young." But I'm actually really fortunate that it happened that way. Unlike some people, I haven't had to adjust when I was older to living between two houses for my entire life. And that can be, living between two houses can be really hard, and having to adjust when you're older can be really difficult. So I'm actually really, really fortunate. Also, my parents get along. There's no parental rivalry that some people have to deal with, so I'm really lucky in that aspect as well. So even though things have worked out for me in the long run, I've made a list of a couple things that are different for me than for people that live with both of their parents at the same time. So the first thing would be that I have step-parents. And my parents remarried when I was 6, so you would naturally think that I wouldn't really like my step-parents that much because they'd be replacing my mom or my dad. But that's actually contrary to what popular belief is. I actually love them both equally. And my stepdad, we have kind of a unique relationship, so he kind of trusts me to do whatever he thinks I can, and I'm fine with that. He kind of lets me do my own thing. My stepmom, on the other hand, is basically like my second mom. So she's very involved in my life, and when I was 11, I was really not okay with how involved she was. And it's just, we used to get into fights all the time about silly things. For example, she doesn't let me wash my hands in the kitchen sink. She's a little bit of a germaphobe, and that's just a funny, every parent has funny rules, and that's just one of her rules. And we used to get in giant fights about this because whenever I'd go cook something, I'd have to wash my hands in the bathroom sink and then come and wash the vegetables in the kitchen sinks, which I just thought was stupid. So, but now we've learned to respect each other's boundaries, and we're best friends. So I just want to say that the evil step-parent trope is mostly a myth, and there are going to be less kids saying that their step-parent is out to get them. So the third thing is that I have two double holidays, so I kind of get a double jeopardy on my holidays, which is kind of great. I have 2 Christmases, 2 Thanksgiving, and only 1 Halloween, unfortunately, because it kind of is centered around one day of an event. But most of my holidays are doubled, which can be really awesome. The problem is that I don't really care about presents anymore. When I was little, it used to be great because I used to get so many presents. I used to get more birthday presents, more Christmas presents. But now I have to divide my holidays up between my parents, which is kind of tough because I have to choose which parent I want to stay with during these holidays, and it's hard to make those priorities, and it's hard to tell one parent that I'd rather stay with that one than the other one for whatever reason. Also, it's really frustrating because I have a younger sister. Her name is Sydney. She's 11, and it's really tough to tell her that I can't be there for Christmases sometimes. Especially when she was younger, when she was around 5, she used to cry a lot when I couldn't be there for holidays, and that always makes me feel really bad. But I kind of have to divide my holidays up evenly, so I can't be with her all the time. So that was a little hard. But because we're not together as much, I think we have a stronger bond. Because for one, she doesn't have as much of an opportunity to annoy me. I'm with her less, but also we kind of value the time we have together more. Or my third thing on my list would be that I have 2 houses that I have to rotate between. So most people switch weekly or bi-weekly or monthly, but I can switch up to 3 times a week. So I put my schedule on the slides, and I go to my mom's house on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and my dad's house on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then the weekends I switch off. So if you can see, like on the first week, I switch about 3 times, and the second week I switch twice, and then I switch 3 times. So I have to pack up all of my stuff, which is binders, notebooks, any tennis things that I need, any clothes that belong at the other house, and anything that I need for like an event that I have later in the week, like a dress or shoes. I have to pack up all of that stuff and carry it with me to each house. So I have like 3 bags of stuff that I have to take with me everywhere. And my mom kind of lives really far away. She lives like 30 minutes away. So if I realize that I need something from her on a Tuesday morning, it's too late to go and get it. So this is kind of like a good thing, I guess, because I've learned how to plan ahead. And I didn't even realize that I was learning this because it's just something I've had to do my entire life. So like if I have to get dressed for an event on Thursday, I realize that I have to bring my stuff from my dad's house, my shoes and my dress, on Wednesday, and bring it over to my mom's house for my event on Thursday. So it's just something that I've learned to deal with, which is awesome. And then the 4th thing is that my parents have totally different rules at each house, and I have to adjust whenever I go to each house to their rules. So, for example, my garage door at my mom's house gets stuck during the winter. I guess it contracts and it doesn't want to close, so you have to kind of slam it shut every time you walk through it. And at my dad's house, I have a perfectly normal garage door. So every time I walk through that door, I slam it shut and I get in trouble because I slam it really hard. And that's just something that I kind of forget to adjust to whenever I switch houses. And it's kind of a funny thing, but Tanya gets a little upset when I slam our perfectly fine garage door. So, yeah. And then another rule that I always forget is that at my dad's house, my dirty clothes have to be right side out. Like I can't put them in the laundry inside out, otherwise they'll end up back in my closet inside out. So, because Tanya gets a little sassy when I don't do it that way. So, over time I've gotten kind of used to adjusting to the different rules in the houses. But I'm still not perfect because I still shut the garage door too loudly. But that's just something I have to work on. So my the whole point of this talk was kind of just to give you like an insight on what it's like kind of to be that 4%. And it's something that I'm really familiar with. It's something that I've talked about or that I've lived with for 14 years now. So I felt like I could talk to you about this topic. And I kind of wanted to bring a little bit of awareness to the people that aren't as lucky as I am. There are a lot of people that have to deal with verbal fighting and physical fighting between their parents when they start to get divorced, especially when it's later in their lives. So I'm really appreciative of how well my parents get along and how lucky I am that everything kind of works out for me. Because if you think about it, my mom could have moved to a different state after they got divorced, and I'd never get to see her. So that would be really sad, and I'd be really upset about that. But I'm really thankful that I'm lucky. And despite that, I only get to spend half the time with them. Like I've kind of learned to make the time that we have worthwhile. And I think that's something